What's up, y'all? It's Ty with the Locs here, and we're back with another video. For today's video, we're going to do the 5 stages of locks, right? So we're going to give you the 5 different stages that you're going to go through throughout your lock journey, right? This is something that as long as you keep your lock journey going, you're going to reach each and every one of these stages. I've reached these stages, and I'm at the last stage, as you probably can tell, and I'm just keeping it going from there. But before we get started in the video, I would love for y'all to subscribe, leave a like, leave a comment, let me know what else you want to see and hear from me, different ideas, and I can jump into it. Okay, so let's get straight into the video. What it is I'm going to do is I'm going to give you each stage one by one, right? So let's go with number one. We got starters, right? Starters is something that you probably already expected for me to say. This just can be anything from freeform, coils, 2-strand, braids, lock extensions. Don't really count as starters, but you can still put them in for the starters. But basically anything that you do to start your locks, those are your starter locks, right? You're gonna see the process of it. It's gonna look basically not like locks at all. You're gonna notice like a difference between how mature locks look compared to how starters look. I started with coils, so this is how my process looked, but that's stage 1, right? The next stage after starters is going to be budding, right? And it could start from you anytime from anytime really from your starters to it could be 7 months in, it could be 12 months in, but you'll start to notice the process of your hair starting to form its shape, but getting really thick and fuzzy. And the fuzziness of it is really just your locks trying to create its shape, right? It's starting to get to that process where it's starting to get, more like a locks instead of just the starter look. It's really, really nice when you see it, because you start to be like, oh, okay, this is it. It's starting to become the process. But what I recommend when you're having your budding stage is to try not to retwist your hair way too much, because if you retwist it way too much, you're only gonna hurt it in the long run. Give it some time to breathe. I know it's gonna look a little crazy, and you might be like, "Oh, I need to get this over with," but don't just retwist it every week because it's budding, because the fuzziness is gonna come back. It's not gonna go away in the beginning. So just keep that in mind. So the next stage is gonna be the teenage stage, right? And this stage is kind of the most fun part, honestly, until you get to the next stage. In this stage, you start to have the locks really see its shape, right? But your locks are gonna start sticking around everywhere, right? I'm gonna also show a photo of my hair kind of sticking around. For the most part, whenever it's sticked up, I didn't really like to take pictures of it. I try to just put it down with a bonnet or a do-rag and just not really show it. But yeah, that was probably the best part, because you're starting to see the shape take place, and you're like, oh, this is it. This is what my locks are gonna look like for the most part. And you just need to grow in a little bit. Typically, it lasts around 12 to 15 months before you get into the next stage. But the teenage stage is probably going to be more noticeable for you after your budding stage, because you're going to be like, oh, okay, this is it. You're not going to want to give up anymore. Typically, you want to give up in your starting phase or your budding phase before you get to the teenage phase. Once you're at the teenage phase, then you're like, this is it, and then you keep going. And then you're basically like, hey, I'm not going to give up on my lock journey. So just stay consistent. Same thing with the retwist. You don't have to retwist all the time, but you can. Not all the time, but you can retwist a little bit more often. If you want to, you can still retwist at any time with all of these stages. I recommend usually a month for each one. I don't really like to do it anytime before that, but that's just me. I wouldn't do anything before 2 weeks or 3 weeks, because that's just crazy in my opinion, but to each their own. But yeah, that's basically it for the teenage stage. Alright, so the next stage is the mature stage, right? And this one is usually around the 15 to 18 month mark typically, but it's probably the best stage, because you have your locks fully matured exactly the way that you want it to be. The best thing about it is that your locks are fully formed and shaped to its own now. Right, so you're starting to see length, you're starting to see the process of it all, and you're at that point where you're like, okay, I don't really need to give up anymore on my journey, right? So when I had my mature stage, as you can see in the photos, right, I kind of got a little bit more confidence. I mean, I liked all of the stages, but this is when I got the most confidence in my lock journey. But this stage is probably going to be your favorite stage out of all of them. Depending on the length of your hair overall, you can start to see it drop, or you just start to see the form take overall. This is the process that you're gonna look at and be like, yeah, this is it. So definitely one of my favorite stages. And the last stage that you're going to have is the rooted stage. And this is exactly where I'm at right now. If I just turn around and show you just a little bit of it, you can kind of see, but it's basically when your locks are fully matured at the end. It has its shape, it's everything that it needs to be with it. All it is now is just continuing to grow and get longer and longer over time, and to continue the same type of maintenance that you've been doing. Sometimes when it comes to the rooted stage, the only thing that you might end up having to do a little bit more than not is like interlock, because your locks start to get a little bit more like, longer, so they can get damaged sometimes based off of like the pulling of the length overall. But that depends on everybody. Like for me, I have one in the front, actually I can show y'all right here, because I just feel like it's necessary to show the process. Like as you can see, right, I have this piece right here that I need to interlock, but you can see most of it is not locked at all. Like from here on, it's all just purely new growth. And compared to like the rest of my head, you can see the rest of my head is like, not like the same over here. So I need to do that. I've been procrastinating on it, but that's basically it when it comes to the rooted stage. It usually is around 18 to 21 months in that you'll start to have this process. So it's usually like not too long. It gives about like 2 years for your locks to really be fully matured overall. So it's nothing to really stress about. When you have it in the beginning, just take your time, understand that it is a process and you're not going to see everything all at once. Okay, so just keep that in mind. But yeah, so this is the process. Those are the 5 stages of your lock journey. So we got starter, budding, teenage, mature, and then rooted. Okay, so keep that in mind when you're starting, and just don't forget about that and don't stress on it too much. All right, again, I would love for y'all to leave a like, leave a comment, subscribe, let me know what other type of videos that you want to see from me. But I appreciate it regardless. If it's your first time here, welcome. If you've been here before, welcome back. I'll see y'all in the next video.